all the way from Abu Dhabi, not a scratch on your face. I say the best UFC debut ever.
I'm not claiming that, but I have heard that a few times. So
Yeah, I shout it from the rooftops.
It's good.
You know, people have their arguments, but man, as far as the pressure you were under, former world champion, come from another big organization, tough matchup, you know, on a Conor card, you kind of, you know, stole the card with that knockout. Like, it was tough.
Yeah, it was definitely good. I mean, I think it was the right opportunity. I mean, the biggest platform I could have ever asked for. Dan Hooker was the tallest test, literally and figuratively, that I didn't. I mean, there was a lot of other names being thrown around that I would have jumped at a lot quicker than Dan Hooker.
Yeah, because that's what I want to talk about. Because when you were on the show last time on Food Truck, you know, we were thinking Conor, Gaethje, or Ferguson.
Yeah.
And the UFC said, cool story, bro. Saw food trucks. Here's Dan Hooker.
Yeah.
Like, I was surprised with the Dan Hooker one. And we have mutual friends in Will Compton and Theo Vaughn, and everyone when the fight got announced, like, what do you think? I was like, not my favorite matchup for him. I got to be honest, out of all the guys, like, not crazy about it.
No, I mean, same thing with me, too. I mean, obviously, you know, you're signing with the UFC. You're signing with the UFC, you're getting thrown into the top 5. Every single one of those guys is just an absolute animal.
Monsters.
Dan Hooker himself, though, when you talk about a guy, a little, you know, shorter stature, power puncher, I gotta get inside that range. Dan Hooker's about as far away as you could possibly get compared to the other guys.
Stylistically, just tough, man.
Tough, and he's good at the style of fighting that has done well against me in the past, which is kind of evade, pot shots, throw kicks, long, pepper me up a little bit. Whereas like a guy like Gaethje is going to meet me in the center.
Yes.
Conor's going to meet me in the center. Poirier, Ferguson, those guys are going to meet me in the center. Dan Hooker had the ability to fight how he was fighting, how the fight was progressing, but luckily I landed that shot.
And when you got the offer, did you get to pick out of guys, or the UFC's like, here's Dan Hooker, Abu Dhabi on the Conor card?
So it was originally us. It made sense, like, for us to push for that January 23rd co-main with Conor and Poirier, biggest stage possible. Then it was, okay, you know, Gaethje was being thrown around. Ferguson had just lost to Oliveira. Oliveira wasn't going to turn around that quick. Although I do believe they offered it to Oliveira, but it just wasn't going to happen.
He said it wasn't enough time,
and
right?
I completely agree
with him. Yeah, that's fine.
But Dan Hooker was always a name that was being thrown around. Dan Hooker, I think himself, he had been offered the fight, or at least, hey, train for January 23rd, you're probably fighting Chandler. Then a couple weeks went by where they were still maybe talking to Gaethje or whatnot. I mean, I was staying ready. I was preparing to fight Gaethje or Hooker, hoping it was going to be Gaethje. Turns out it was Dan Hooker, and the rest is history. Either way, we're on this side of it with a win, and that's good.
You're here, man.
Yeah, that's good.
Going in, a lot of people say, like, coming into the UFC, there's, no matter who you are, there's UFC jitters. You've heard a lot of veterans be like, it's just different when you get to the UFC. Was it different for you?
It was different, but it was not harder. Like, I honestly can tell you, right, and it's interesting, too, like, if you really kind of unpack the pressure that comes along with a fight, I believe, and this was my same thing with wrestling as it is with fighting. Fighting a guy that I'm supposed to beat is actually much more nerve-wracking than a guy, I'm making my UFC debut on a huge platform against Dan Hooker. I pretty much have nothing to lose. So
yeah, I think you were an underdog.
I was an underdog.
Yeah,
so it's like,
slight underdog.
Listen, everybody out there didn't think I was going to win, thought I was a B-League fighter coming from a different organization. I hadn't proved myself. So all I had to do was go out there and compete. It was a bunch of fights before that when I'm supposed to go out there and finish a guy in the first round. That's when I
more
get
pressure.
That's when I get nervous. You know, you go out there, you knock a guy out in the second round, and everybody's like, well, he beat a subpar guy, and it took him 2 rounds to do it. Going out there fighting Dan Hooker, I mean, I felt free. I felt at home. It was the most loose I'd ever been. Almost uncomfortably happy, like smiling. My coaches were kind of, we talked about it after the fight, they were kind of like
a little nervous, I bet.
They were a little bit nervous that I was almost just taking it in stride and
too comfortable.
Too comfortable.
Interesting.
But man, I felt so good, man.
Really? Yeah, so coming from Bellator, which is a huge organization, and then UFC, was there any differences you could tell, or to you it was just kind of fight day?
To me, it was just fight day, but the bigness of what the UFC brings is just, it's huge. I mean, you can feel how big the atmosphere, the aura of a Conor McGregor pay-per-view. Obviously, right now,
it's in COVID too.
This is during COVID.
That's the other thing.
So I mean, imagine if it was, you know, fight week in Vegas with thousands of media people, thousands of people showing up to the weigh-ins, and it's just So it was a little bit watered down, obviously, but you could still feel it.
You can feel it.
And you got Dana talking about the trending pay-per-view numbers,
Yeah,
and you know
huge
you just
pay-per-view.
know it's huge. So for me, I just tried to keep the main thing, which was, okay, listen, it's another opponent, 2 arms, 2 legs, under the unified rules of mixed martial arts.
Steel cage.
Steel cage, go out there and do it. But you could definitely feel it, like the energy
It's a different
around the
animal
week.
a little bit.
Yeah, and then they had me and Hooker in the press conference. I got to size up Connor, sat next to him, we shook hands. Like that was a very respectful
Yeah,
experience.
because
It was all
it's not
good.
like your debut was on like a fight night, which a lot of guys are. Your main
Yeah.
event on fight night, like you're on a Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier card.
Yeah, it was. I mean, and especially in the lightweight division, right now,
Big boy stuff.
the most electrifying division, deepest division, craziest Shark Tank in
Ever.
the UFC.
Ever, dude.
It's really cool.
Ever.
And hats off to Khabib for what he has accomplished. I think it's time to move on, obviously, and now we're going to see what the heck happens.
Yeah, you see everyone, Dana and then some other media, like, oh, what about Khabib? You guys got to stop. You got to move on. He's out. He even in his meeting with Dana, he's like, I'm good, man. I'm good. So we got to get over that. I love Khabib, one of the greatest, if not the greatest to ever do it. But the division has to move on, man.
Yeah,
Has
exactly.
to move on.
Well, and he said, the word of that week was spectacular. He wanted to see something spectacular. So,
But he's talking, but when people tell you out of context, if you hear Khabib talk, he's talking over a longevity. He's not talking like you had a spectacular fight. You knocked him out like that. I was like, oh, Khabib's next.
Yeah.
He's talking about, like, let's say you went on a 6-0 rant
Yeah.
and just fucking destroyed guys in the first round, then maybe he'll come out.
Which that's something that I, hopefully, confident expectancy of good things happening. I win my next fight, become the #1 contender, or, win the title and then defend it once. Show that I'm not just a guy who's got hands. I want to show the world.
Dominate.
I want to show the world that I am a well-rounded mixed martial artist. I can pick you up, put you down. I can control you there. Submission, doing damage, controlling guys, and knocking them out.
Showing the gamut.
I think you can. I could probably be the guy who entices Khabib to come
Agree.
back.
I could agree with that.
But that's at least a year down the line.
When you knocked out Hooker, did it feel different than your other knockouts? Because that one was.
That one was special.
Because you didn't think it was going to go that fast.
I didn't think it was going to go that fast, and it is, and it kind of goes back to the underdog mentality of, like, I had nothing to lose. A lot of times, because you know how it is, in a mixed martial arts fight, every single moment, there's a chance that you get your lights put out, you get caught, you get zigged when you should have zagged.
Margin of error is so
Margin of error is so small. So whenever that ref pulls you off your opponent and the fight is over, there's always this weight that comes off you. This one was more excitement than it was a weight lifted off, because there was so much pressure in my previous fights when I was the favorite and I'm supposed to go out there and
that
finish
makes
guys. So
sense.
this one was just like, holy cow, what just happened? Backflip, to just like hugging my coaches.
Love
It
the
was just-
backflip.
I've never done a backflip off the cage in my entire life.
Hilarious.
So I can't believe that something in me decided to
I'm gonna do a
use the
backflip.
biggest stage that I could have ever asked for to possibly impale myself in front of 30 million
I love
people.
it. And then the post-fight speech, was it something you're thinking about before? Because I had a Ric Flair vibe to it. I dug it. And Will was, because our boy Will Compton, Bustin' with the Boys, shout out Bustin' with the Boys, texts me, goes,
No
man,
free shouts.
what'd you think of the post-fight speech? What do you think? Is it gonna hurt him? Like, no, I thought it was dope, man. It's very
Yeah.
WWE-ish.
And it's 98% like positive, because I think people see me on camera, they see me out of the cage, but then there's also like the inside the cage. You're a different person when you're
entertainer,
inside the
yeah.
cage.
And
you're
that's
inside the
also your
octagon.
moment.
Exactly.
Because when guys get on there like, oh, whatever Dana wants to do, it's like, nah, hell no.
Yeah.
Here's the plan.
And most of the time I am like that. Even like right now, I'll sit here and look at the cameras and say, listen, I'm not in charge here. I think I made a statement. I think I'm a top 5 guy now. I think I might be in line for the title shot, whatever the UFC wants to do. But in that moment,
we'll
it
get
was
to
like,
that. I'll help you with
I
that.
was going to talk about Connor. I was going to talk about Poirier, and I was
Yep.
definitely going to talk about Khabib, because I do think I am the guy who can solve that
Get him.
riddle. But it all went how it went. I couldn't have scripted it any better, and man, it was
You
good.
can't.
Yeah, it was
Best
good.
UFC debut ever, man. I
I know.
stick by it.
I'll take-
Name a better one. Let's argue. You know what
No,
I'm saying?
you're right.
Like,
I mean, people have said Anderson Silva.
no. Here,
Okay.
so let's go over Anderson Silva.
Okay.
I'll argue all day with people. Anderson Silva fought Chris Lieben,
Yeah.
quality fighter, not the number 6 guy in the lightweight division in
Yeah.
2021.
True.
It's Murder's Row, dude.
Guy who's never been finished.
Yeah, but it never been finished.
Yeah.
And also, Chris Lieben, again, no disrespect, solid compared to Dan Hooker, dude.
Yeah. Dan Hooker has been finished. Sorry, he
and-
has been finished, just not knocked out today.
Just knocked out.
Yeah, sorry.
But then also, Chris Lieben's not coming from all this pressure. I know you didn't feel the pressure, but dude, You're the face of Bellator for years. You're a former world champion. You come over. The UFC's not doing you any favors.
Yeah.
With Anderson Silva, he came from Pride and stuff like that. And guys, if you're hardcore, knew he was talented. And Chris Leben was the perfect matchup for him.
Yeah.
Hooker's not. I don't give a. You knocked him out cold. He's not a good matchup. You guys fight 10 times, that fight probably doesn't go like that 10 times.
That's a tough fight.
That's a tough fucking matchup.
I think one of the biggest things, too.
It's a bad argument.
Yeah, I think the biggest amount of pressure came from me realizing that I made that decision to go to the UFC when I had everything already at my...
Yeah, you've been good. You didn't have to do it.
I was the face of an organization, the poster boy. I had a great contract. I would have continued to have great contracts, would have had more predictable, not probably, but definitely easier fights in the long run over a 10-fight period. I made a decision to bet on myself, take a chance on myself. I left the relative uncertainty of Bellator to go to the UFC, and to go to the UFC and lose, that's where you're
it'd been a nightmare.
Yeah, you'd be like, we'd be sitting here being like, hey, I might have made the wrong decision.
No, you wouldn't be here.
Exactly.
They wouldn't be on Food Channel.
Yeah, no, exactly.